Pastor Scott here with a word of encouragement. So let me ask you a question. Be honest now. Do you yell at your TV? Do you yell at your computer screen? I've been known to do that occasionally. And Sandy will say, sweetie, they can't hear you. But I'm thinking if they could only hear me, we could get this whole thing straightened out, right? Let me ask you another question. When you pass the person driving slow in the left lane by getting into the right lane, do you look over at them? I've been known to do that. It's like if you would just get your act together, we could really get moving out here, right? So Paul brings us back to the real issues, and the real issues aren't the people on our TVs or computer screens or what we see or people driving slow in the left lane. This is what Paul says, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. He says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." Our issues are not the people that we see. It's hard to separate that, though, isn't it? Paul says, no, listen, there's a spiritual realm, and that's where the struggle is really taking place, but it's being lived out here amongst us in our daily lives. So what do you do then? What do you do to be encouraged? Paul continues on in the 13th verse. Therefore, in other words, since our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, what do? He says, therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand. And after you have done everything, to stand. And then he goes through piece by piece, the full armor of God, the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet fitted with readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. You take up your shield of faith and the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit. And then verse 18, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. And he says, pray also for me. There's a leader here at Trinity that invited a group of us that we began praying Ephesians 6, 10 through 18 every day at 10:18 in the morning. And I want to issue that invitation to you also. When you set your phone, I set my watch and it goes off at 10:18 every morning, and I stop and I pray the full armor of God over myself and my family and my ministry and my call, people that the Lord puts on my heart, that we all have on the full armor of God in these days that are very difficult and very trying. I want to invite you to do that, 10:18, because this is what I believe. I believe that when we do that and we take the time to understand where the struggle really is, and we take the steps to enter into that we'll be able to stand. And when we stand, we'll be encouraged.